If you have a rebate that is another 5% or 3%, you doubled or you increased your profitability by 60% just by selecting the right equipment.
Hello, Raphael, and thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
So, shall we dive right into it?
Should.
Okay. So, I want to start with something that is a bit almost embarrassing when you say it out loud. But most VARs do not actually know what rebates they're eligible for, right? We've been in rooms with sales and finance leaders who cannot answer that question. How is that still happening?
Well, there is a lot of complexity and a lot of information that is required in order to understand what you're eligible for. And we need to look at the history, and we need to look at future deals. Mm-hmm. When we talk about history, usually you get information from your vendor or supplier, and they tell you this is what you're eligible for as an end period rebate or end back-end rebate. When you look at actual deals in real time, you lack the tools and the ability to understand how much additional profitability you can gain by employing the rules of the game, by implementing or using the correct equipment versus old equipment when you are proposing something to the customer. So it's mainly lack of information, distributed system, very difficult to decipher the rules of the game, and they end up just enjoying whatever they enjoy at the end of the period without being able to control or optimize it.
Right. So the whole distributor vendor ecosystem is built on this model, but VARs are basically trying to navigate it with one hand tied behind their back.
And blindfolded, right? I mean, the real issue here is that vendors such as Cisco define new programs from time to time, such as Cisco 360 or other vendors. And the rules are complex, and they depend on what you sell, how you sell, to whom you sell, what is your grade as a reseller, and so on and so forth. And trying to figure out all this information, let's call it manually, or during the design process or the sales process is mission impossible. Most resellers give it up, and they just, que sera, sera, right? Whatever happens, and they take the information or the rebate at the end. It's also very difficult for them to reconcile, right? So they're not even sure if this is the correct amount or not. So those two sides, the historical side and the real-time side, are both missing in most cases.
Yeah, I understand. So this is not only about collecting what you are owed. It is about using rebate visibility as a competitive weapon in real time. We have seen smart VARs doing this, and it is a completely different game.
Absolutely. I mean, the idea of using the rebates intelligently and optimizing is basically driven by the vendors who are interested in driving new generation of equipment or solution into the market. Mm-hmm. And they reward the resellers for doing so by giving them additional profit. Okay, so how as a VAR do you use this profit? If you don't know, you can't use it. If you know, you have two options. You can become more competitive with your pricing and win more deals, or you can just increase your profitability if you're not in a very competitive situation. But you have to make some proactive decisions and use the correct equipment that can optimize the profitability versus just what you used to sell yesterday. This requires cooperation between the technical side, which is usually the sales engineers that define what the solution should look like, mm-hmm. and the sales team that is trying to sell against competition and so on, and on one hand trying to optimize profit, but on the other hand also trying to optimize the probability of winning the deal by
right.
being more competitive. And sometimes 1%, 2% can make the difference of win versus loss on any given opportunity.
Yeah. So the rebate's actually shaping the decision in the moment. not just validating it weeks later when finance finally sorts everything out.
This is the difference between when you're driving, looking forward, or looking in the rear mirror, right? If you are not using it in real time, while you are selecting the solution or defining the solution and trying to be more competitive, you're losing the whole benefit of weaponizing the solution. It can make a big difference, okay? It is well known that the margin profit of a VAR is usually a few percentage points, maybe 5. Like if you have a rebate that is another 5% or 3%, you doubled or you increased your profitability by 60% just by selecting the right equipment. Mm-hmm. That's a huge difference, right? But you need to have the tools in order to implement it. And most VARs don't have the tools or don't have it embedded in their process. And that's one of the challenges they're facing.
Right. And that's a very big gap. I mean, 5% versus 10% on the same deal. And I understand you have a specific question you ask C-suite leaders when this topic comes up.
Absolutely. I think, the first question is, do you care? And if the answer is, we don't care, we just wait for the check coming from the vendors and say, okay, how much money are you leaving on the table by not caring, right? And what if I show you that by utilizing it correctly, you can increase your profitability by, 50%, 60%, maybe double your profitability. And there's, okay, what do we need to do in order to do that? Or you need to change a little bit the process. You need to have more transparency. And you need to take that into account during the sales process and not just as an afterthought, analyzing historical data and reconciling.
Right. You're describing rebate optimism problem at the moment of quote. How can AI change this?
That's a great question, right? I mean, what can we do really in real time in order to help the sales engineers and the salespeople to optimize? There are a few things, right? Number one, select the right equipment. So if the solution includes, router ABC, but router XYZ provides much better a rebate, is it replaceable? Is it more expensive? Is it going to increase my probability of winning the opportunity or not? What is the history with this customer? What other equipment did we sell? In the past, that needs to be compatible. What is our win rate if we're trying to sell this versus that? All those questions require in-depth analysis of a lot of data, and AI can be, really helpful in those situations. Right. Otherwise, it's a lot of manual steps that are very difficult to implement, and because they're difficult, because they're time-consuming, simply nobody cares. It's too expensive, basically, in time and money.
So, Raphael, let's say a VAR leader is listening to this right now. What is one thing they should go back and ask their team first things tomorrow morning?
I think the major question is, first it's like, an executive decision. Do we want to change the way we're doing business now? The second question is, if we want to change, what do you need as a technical team, like the sales engineer, as a sales team, account managers? What do you need in order to optimize the profitability? You need the information. So how do you need the information? When do you need the information? How can we create a dialogue between sales engineers and account managers to optimize? Those are the questions. They require a little bit of process change, not too much. They mainly require a change in the mindset, because usually transparency is the key here. And many VARs prefer not to expose the additional profit to their sales team. But if you want to really enjoy it, you have to be more transparent and change the way you think about it. And that's the key issue. And if the answer is, I'm not willing to expose, don't go there. If the answer is, I am willing to expose, then you need to make some changes in your process and have the right tool set in order to implement it.
Yeah, transparency is definitely a key here.
Absolutely.
Raphael, thank you so much for being with us here today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Have a great day.